So it's 6:41 Sunday, September 21st. Is it the 21st? I'm never good with dates.
My computer says it's the 21st, so yes,
21st,
it's the
yeah.
21st. Good job.
Um, so the Sandy and Reza doing our, I guess, inaugural podcast. Sort of just discussing a whole range of topics. I figured to sort of get this thing going, we'd sort of give a little brief introduction and some background on who we are.
Yes.
So do you wanna get us going?
Uh, sure. I'm Reza, 25 years old. I'm a PhD student at the University of Delaware studying bioinformatics. Um, we study small RNAs in plants, and there's just like a wide subset of small RNAs. We try to understand how they're created and what their roles are in different plants.
Now remind me what an RNA is.
An RNA is the ribonucleic acid in most organisms. I guess all living organisms, even viruses. Um, and so essentially what RNAs do is it's the median point between DNA and protein. DNA creates RNA, and then RNA creates protein. Small RNAs are different because they don't actually create protein, but small RNAs can help regulate the transcription and the translation of the DNA and RNA,
Gotcha,
so it can regulate how much protein is being created.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Now you're doing this at the University of Delaware.
Yep. Fourth year student right now. I will be. I'm in the process of developing my PhD thesis right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'll probably try to propose in the winter,
Okay.
so we'll see how that goes. At least I have to
Nice.
meet with my committee and all.
Mm-hmm.
But that's beyond the introduction, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I can give a little bit of myself.
Yeah, sure.
My name's Sandy, also 25 years old. Uh, Currently working at American Express as a UX architect. Um, Sort of designing the blueprints behind the sort of the enterprise apps that we have going on.
Right.
Uh, Now within sort of my world, if you think of it as a triangle, there's one point held by product, and they sort of figure out the strategy behind the app,
Okay.
and they sort of bring together UED, sort of like user experience and design,
Right.
which is the group I'm in, and then engineering. So sort of the three different parts come together to design some cool stuff,
Yeah.
and been there for about a couple months now. I think I started in like March or something. Before that, I was a digital strategist, uh, also at American Express for a few months. Uh,
Just
I
a few
guess
months, huh?
just a few months. Yeah, there was an opportunity to sort of join my current group, and I guess I couldn't pass it up. And
Right.
I guess before that, my last sort of official role was at Ogilvy and Mather doing account executive work, and learned a lot. Some of the most intense 3 years of my life, but also some of the best 3 years. Really able to sort of figure out what kind of professional I was going to be
Yeah.
in that time. Sort not like, I guess, thrown into the deep end into a lot of projects, and it was a very sink or swim sort of moment, and you really find out a lot about yourself when you're put in those like high stress situations.
Yeah, I imagine it helps you develop pretty quickly after college too, right?
Yeah, it's crazy though. It's you're really forced to just be on,
Right.
and if you're not ready, you're not ready.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I guess that's a little bit about the two of us right now.
Okay.
Uh, I sort of the things that we wanted to talk about today. I've got it on my phone here. We sort of had discussed three major topics um, before recording. First
Right.
one being the NFL and all of the scandals that it's been going through.
Yeah, a million different scandals in the NFL these days, right?
Right? Yeah, we came into this sort of year so excited,
Right.
um, and for just the year to start. And I remember seeing that the Ray Rice video,
Yeah.
and not thinking too much of it, only because the only video that we had at that point was the one of him dragging his fiance out,
Right.
and we didn't really see one that was sort of, the infamous one now that was released later.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe it was just sort of my cynical view, but I didn't think that there was really going to be anything against Ray Rice out of that video.
Yeah.
I
That,
mean, there's been so much leniency, over the years.
yeah. I guess what I thought after seeing the first video, um, I certainly thought it was really like crazy, messed up, because I've heard a lot of other people talk about this, where after he pulls her out the elevator, he just doesn't seem to really care. He just like pulls her out and just kind of stands over her and is looking like, really, this you're gonna make me look like this in public now?
Right.
And
And
so when I lost my train of thought right there.
yeah, what's interesting was the reports that came out later saying that I think it was either in the elevator or immediately after he drags her out of the elevator,
Yeah.
that they said that oh my gosh, the Denver just scored a safety.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Sorry. They Ray Rice basically texted somebody or called somebody and was like, "I'm about to go to jail tonight."
Yeah, I did hear about that.
So, so that's interesting. So there's some of the,
Yeah, we kind of have to recap it, some of it, right?
yeah, I mean, there's so many things that have happened. Um, let's see. Ray McDonald, he
Yeah.
was the tackle for the 49ers, arrested on August 31st on suspicion of felony domestic violence.
Now
There's Greg,
he's playing this week, right? He's not
I,
suspended yet.
not suspended yet. Greg
Okay.
Hardy of the defensive end of the Panthers, he definitely got
Yeah,
suspended.
he's on the exemption list right now.
Yeah, arrested on May 13th on 2 misdemeanor charges after he allegedly assaulted and threatened his ex-girlfriend. Ray Rice, we just talked about that. A.J. Jefferson on November 25th of 2013, one felony count. Daryl Washington, also of the Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Yeah, just like it's over and over and over again. Chris Rainey, they just released him
Oh really?
of the Steelers. Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that one.
he got picked up, and everyone knew that he had sort of a history of this violent crime,
Yeah.
but they picked him up anyways, and it's crazy. I think that what the craziest one so far that's really brought the situation from I guess a boiling point to critical mass is Adrian Peterson,
Right.
because it's crazy. You always think that there's certain things that you can't do, right? Like
Right.
even with Michael Vick way back when he got convicted of dogfighting charges, the man went to jail.
Yeah.
He paid his penance, and he came back, and it's been a long and uphill battle, but for a number of years when he came afterward to Philly, I felt like the sentiment was he paid his due, he did his time,
Yeah.
and went back.
So, I actually talked with Elena about this yesterday. If people listen to this, Elena's my girlfriend. And I was kind of just discussing my thoughts on that particular that situation. I feel like if the Michael Vick thing happened today, he wouldn't be playing.
No,
Like
absolutely not.
when did he get arrested for that? I was trying to figure it out. Was it like 2006, 7?
Let me see.
I don't want to go clacking away on my keyboard.
Did you hear me clapping away?
No, I can't hear you.
Okay.
I know my mic would pick me up though.
It looks like in 2007.
2007. Okay. Yeah, I was trying to figure it out. I remembered him getting out of jail
Yeah.
in 2009.
Yeah.
So, in 2007, Twitter wasn't that big,
No.
and they weren't incorporating it into the media, of course.
Right.
I just feel like public opinion wasn't heard as much as it is now, like outrage and all that all that stuff.
Yeah. It's definitely not. It was definitely not as lightning quick as it is today.
Yeah. In addition, there was no video.
Right.
But then again, we're seeing from the Adrian Peterson thing, maybe this is because the Ray Rice thing, everyone's very sensitive about everything, that people, they just feel like the NFL hasn't been handling things properly. I guess that's a question for you. Do you think any of these players would be suspended or not playing right now had the Ray Rice thing not happened?
No, I think they'd all be playing.
Yeah.
I mean, Greg Hardy was playing.
Right.
Greg Hardy threw his allegedly, I guess, threw his girlfriend on a sofa in bed full of automatic weapons.
Oh, wow.
Now, and he also threatened to kill her.
Yeah.
Now the the thing about being in, I guess from was it North Carolina, is that you don't need a permit for any assault rifle. You just need a permit for handguns.
I see.
So the man had a substantial amount of assault rifles and shotguns.
I see.
And if you tell somebody they're loaded and you throw them on a bed full of them, that's a precarious situation to enter.
Yeah.
And it's hard not to believe somebody when they say they're going to kill you when you do something like that.
Yeah, for sure. Especially if they have a history of violence.
Right. Um, but I believe that without Ray Rice and sort of the huge, um, I guess, magnifying glass on the NFL,
Yeah.
they would totally be playing.
Yeah. That's kind of where I'm sitting right now too.
Yeah.
Definitely with the Adrian Peterson thing, I feel like they would let the case go, but right now it's not like anything can happen anyway. They're building the case against him, right? And
Right. Adrian
would
Peterson, he voluntarily went to Texas.
right,
So he says that he's been definitely been working with the authorities.
right,
But what's crazy is sort of Adrian Peterson's case is new. It's different in my eyes than domestic violence
yes,
because domestic violence is a crime. It's like it's a clear, cut dry,
right,
case. It's a crime, but Adrian Peterson, it all comes down to disciplining your child.
yeah,
Now, that's not a crime. The crime is when discipline turns into abuse.
right,
Now, what's interesting about Adrian Peterson's case is sort of his background and his history. All these reports keep coming out saying how incredibly brutal his, I guess, his male figures in
yeah,
his life were to
mm-hmm,
him. His father, his uncle, sort of how public they were with it too.
right,
Now, I know growing up, when I was out of line, I got hit. You
as did
know,
I.
it's it's something that I wouldn't say it's definitely sort of formed who I am today.
Right,
I think also sort of our cultures, both you and my cultures. I'm Chinese.
yeah,
Uh, there's always that sort of huge respect for your elders and like
right,
that power structure, and it's obviously reinforced through corporal punishment.
yeah,
Um, it's just his was is are we in a place today where sort of your standard corporal punishments of pick a switch are those days behind us?
I have to imagine that they are at this point, right? But it was completely fine, what, 20, 30, 40 years ago? Maybe it depended on the society that you grew up in.
Yeah.
But like I always remember the Michael Jackson movie where they're practicing their singing, right?
Oh yeah.
And one of them, I think Michael messes up the spin, or maybe it wasn't Michael, maybe it was the younger brother. And I think he couldn't get the spin move down, and like the dad sent him out back to get the switch or whatever. I remember seeing that when I was a kid, and I didn't think it was out of line.
Because that's what you knew.
Yeah, I mean,
Now,
I wasn't going out and getting switches or anything like that, but like a belt was completely fair game.
right. Now here's an interesting question though. So in that moment when you're watching the movie
Right.
and you're realizing, oh, Michael, get a switch, you're like, you don't even bat an eye.
Yeah.
It is there some parallel with Adrian Peterson where when he disciplines his child, all he knows is how he was disciplined? It's sort of like a sample set bias, right? That's all you know.
Yeah.
If
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
if that's all you know, how I guess it's up to I guess the argument against it is, we know so much more now.
yeah.
We know that, especially because his kids were young, 4 years old.
Yeah, that is very young. I thought it was initially 11 years old, and I didn't think it was that bad. But 4 years old is rough. And I also didn't know it was actually a switch.
Right. Now, 4 years old is interesting because it really comes into question how much a child retains at 4 years old.
Right.
Because if you're going to beat a 4-year-old, one can imagine that the only reaction they have is more of a primal reaction, just straight fear.
Right.
And,
Which is fair.
which is fair. And fear breeds too many sort of unstable reactions out of it.
Right.
It's sort of like that cycle of violence that you would have to sort of end. But But we were reading this report earlier that was published today at 11 a.m. where Chris Mortensen of ESPN states that Peterson is in denial about a short and long term future in Minnesota,
Yeah.
and that how Peterson quote really doesn't get it, and then also quote he's in denial when it comes to his future.
Right.
And Minnesota came out saying that his Peterson's time in Minnesota will end sooner than expected, and that themselves do not foresee Peterson in their future. That's crazy.
Yeah.
The Broncos
Yep.
just
Just interception.
tip drill. Um, it's I don't when you're so I guess it's the situation here that he's 4 years old. That's
Right.
really the biggest
That's
sort of
very important.
yeah. I guess it's too young for a switch.
I don't even know if you can ever use a switch. I feel like when it comes to hitting a kid these days, it's no tools. I don't even know if people would be fine with like a belt.
Well, the belt can do a lot of damage
It can. Yeah.
because if you get hit with the buckle side,
Oh yeah. I'm not talking about buckle side. We don't do
Okay.
that.
yeah, it's it can be really intense.
Yeah.
I guess that's fair. No switches, but it's sort of that this you can't just go in and like uproot a society where
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
well that's all that people know.
I feel like, and I've talked to Elaine about this too. It's like, how do you envision you'll discipline your kids? Do you think you'll hit them, or are you gonna kind of take the no violence physical hitting at all, and stick with timeouts and removal of privileges and whatnot? Is
Um,
that suitable?
I guess I always thought that I would discipline my child
Yeah.
physically, sort of following the Adrian Peterson model of that's all I know,
Yeah.
and I know that to be effective.
Right.
But I also know that that sort of respect was instilled in me from a very early age.
Right.
Also, without it,
Right.
just knowing that people who are older than you know more than you,
Yeah.
and you have to just accept that at some level, and that they have all of the power in this relationship,
Yep.
and you just gotta do what they say.
Right.
Now, maybe with all of the new research that's coming out that's saying that there's other ways of disciplining your child through
Yeah.
nonviolence that are much more effective. I would have to read up on those to see if those were I guess usable in my case.
Yeah.
But I'm sure removal of privileges, especially with the amount of tools that we have nowadays, like cell phones and internet and
Oh yeah.
and TV, there's a lot more toys, I guess, that you can take away.
It's an interesting thing, right? Because when you do the immediate like hitting kind of thing and nothing after, you go as a kid, you go through that like initial embarrassment, the pain, whatever it would be, and then you kind of just go back to your normal life. So maybe there is a point of these removal of privileges if you do it for a long period of time. Maybe you have the kids sit on it for a long time and they're always thinking about what they did wrong.
But you got to be careful with that, though, right? Because I remember sometimes where you get a whooping, they don't tell you why, and then you're like, what did I do? And then you kind of get like, for me, I would get intensely sad because I just wouldn't know what I did to deserve it.
Right.
So that's always sort of okay.
That
Demarius
was a nice
Thomas.
play. I know you saw that, right?
I know I saw that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was watching it too.
That's important. So yeah, it's interesting, I guess, sort of the situations that we found ourselves in.
Yeah.
I think I wouldn't if I had a daughter. I
Okay.
don't think you should ever lay your hands on a girl, especially a young girl. It's just there's so. I think for me that's out of line.
Right.
For me that's out of line, and I don't think that I'd ever be able to do that.
Okay.
But I think with a boy, but like you see, we're speaking in cliches, right? Because with boys, you think they're tougher, they can
Yeah,
take it,
right.
but that's an antiquated view. I guess that's something that it's like a very fluid thing that I would have to discuss with my wife.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely gonna have to be something you discuss with her.
Yeah.
I was
Now,
actually thinking about that in parallel with the Ray Rice thing. I think part of the reason why I didn't feel the way I didn't feel the way I did now about it before seeing the video, is
yeah.
because they came out and said that she initiated things and whatnot, And you heard some people in the media talk about it, say that if who was it? Was it Whoopi Goldberg that said it? If you're a woman and you hit a man, you can't expect to not get hit back, or at least have some reaction back. Like you're safe because you're just a girl and you're not allowed to be hit.
Well,
You
Stephen
sh-
A. Smith says something similar, and
right,
he
and
had to,
he got suspended for it
yeah.
because I don't think he got the idea across properly. I think I knew what he was trying to say, but I don't think he expressed that properly.
You think he got suspended because he's a man, and
Probably.
that's pretty misogynistic to say.
No, you probably. It's like yeah, I mean it makes sense, right? I can imagine that having something to do with it.
Because Whoopi can say it,
Yeah,
and then it seems like it's all she's getting is like a, oh well, that's Whoopi for you.
right. I wonder if like Carrie Champion said it, the moderator on First Take. I wonder if she
Oh,
would have
okay.
gotten in trouble for it.
I mean, is there ever a situation where if a woman hits you,
I
you
wouldn't
hit her
s-
back?
I wouldn't say it'd be acceptable. I don't think anybody should hit anybody ever.
Period. Right.
But I think if you hit somebody, I don't think you should necessarily be safe from any type of reaction. The kind of primal instinctive reaction would be to hit back, especially if you think you're stronger than the person. Now, whether they're a woman or not, and they can take it, that's another thing.
Right. You know what I just realized? That was Julius Thomas and not Demarius Thomas.
Ah,
Cause I didn't get any points for that. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I guess I was thinking the same thing too about kids when it comes to disciplining girls, as it differs to boys. And maybe because of my household, it wasn't any different. But right now, I don't really feel like there should be any difference.
Yeah. Uh, if you're in an altercation or a fight,
Hmm.
and somebody puts their hands on you, like with your significant other,
Right.
I think that's something that you two have to figure out if that's ever sort of an acceptable thing, and if that ever does happen, you have to you have to put that to bed immediately,
Right.
because you can't sort of have somebody let their either anyone get let their emotions get the better of them,
Yeah.
because that's such a slippery slope.
Yeah.
And I understand and agree to a point that let you can't hit someone and expect not to get hit.
Right.
But if hypothetically, and this is such a terrible hypothetical, but if you get slapped,
Right.
you can't you can't close fist punch somebody back,
Yeah.
right? That just
Right.
doesn't seem like
An equal reaction.
an equal reaction. Exactly. That's sort of like that law with like assaults, right?
Right.
Where you can defend, like the line between personal defense and assault is a thin one. It
Yeah.
all depends on the level of reaction has to match sort of the initial, uh, I guess, incitement.
Right.
Do you think that Ray Rice or Adrian Peterson should be allowed to play? Uh, if
That-
they're able, if like let's just say they are found guilty,
Right.
do you think there should be some sort of Michael Vick-esque, reinstatement into the league now that
See,
you've done the time, you've paid the price?
right. See, I felt that way when Michael Vick came back.
Uh
I
huh.
felt that if we were to trust the legal system, that he should be allowed to come back. And that's at least how I felt back then. And I'm a little hesitant to say that same thing right now. Although I don't have like an immediate like justification for that feeling. Maybe I just feel like it really should be a privilege to play in the NFL. You hear so many stories about people doing just the most ridiculous thing. You have Jameis Winston getting suspended for yesterday's game.
Yep.
Like, how many times does he have to get in trouble to
Which
realize?
Jameis Winston just has absolutely no idea
Right,
what it takes to be a leader.
right,
You can't yell that kind of obscene stuff and expect the NFL to just be okay with it.
right. He
Uh,
fell on Mel Kiper Jr. He fell from his draft stock, I think, from like number 1 to like number 32
Oh
overnight.
yeah. Well, because nobody, especially right now,
Especially in this, yeah, right now.
nobody wants anybody who's gonna bring any kind of negative scrutiny on the team.
Right, and the potential for that. Because even if we all forgive him for everything that he's done recently, it seems likely that he'll have some type of problems, whether it be with the law or just whatever.
Right.
And the teams don't want to have to deal with that.
And the timing couldn't be worse because the spotlight on this sort of stuff is so bright on the NFL and football
Right,
that normally if this happened as a one-off, people would forget about it. It's like even if it was like a really busy news day, or even if it was a slow news day, and this is the only thing that came out that day,
Right.
people would have forgotten about it had all of this stuff not surfaced.
Now, what is interesting, and this might kind of change the topic a little bit, so I don't want to necessarily do that, but when you say like what's kind of gets drowned out by the bigger news, that same day, I think when the Ray Rice video came out, that is when the Atlanta Hawks owner, he released his email that he sent to people, talking about the attendance of black people compared to white people in the audience.
Right.
And I felt like that story just got completely ignored. I don't hear much about it. In addition to that, then there was something with the GM of the team who said what he said about Luol Deng.
Being
And
too
I
black,
still
like
haven't heard
African
much.
black.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
And
aren't they like? I know the GM isn't paying too much, but isn't the owner selling his stake?
right. And the funny thing about that is that he actually said he was going to sell the team. He released the email himself. It wasn't like it was a TMZ release or whatever, like the Donald Sterling thing.
Yeah,
He put it up himself.
but there was internal pressure to do so.
Was there?
Yeah,
I
from
thought.
from one of the board members, I believe there was a lot of pressure saying that they did not feel comfortable with that kind of communication
I see.
from one of the from I guess a majority stakeholder,
Uh huh.
and so they were going. I think there was pressure for him to release that on his own as
I
opposed
see.
to somebody else leaking it.
I see. Yeah, I thought maybe what was going on was Donald Sterling said he had dirt on like every other owner. And so I was wondering if was Donald Sterling threatening to put that out, and he put it out himself, just to kind of, so he was the one in control of it. At least it didn't look as bad.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, I've talked about this too with other people with this particular situation, and I don't know if I agree that he should have had to sell the team. I feel like it wasn't like the Donald Sterling thing, where he was so aggressive about his feelings towards black people in general. I felt like this owner was actually discussing this from a business standpoint and just the demographics, the statistics. And so I feel like that's what he was trying to get across and bring to light. But obviously, I don't think he did it in the best way.
Right.
But I think he should sell the team.
You don't think he should sell the
I don't
team?
think he should sell the team.
I guess that was a preemptive move on his point, and I think that might be a reason why we're not hearing about it as much as we normally would have.
Right?
Because he is, as they say, he's paying for it.
Yeah.
So I think he's able to nip that storyline in the bud, saying, "Well, he's not gonna do it. He's gonna sell it. That's the price for those kind of comments."
Yeah.
And then there you have it. As opposed to Donald Sterling, who was so adamant about not saying anything wrong for a little bit, and
Right.
then all of the how that sort of unfolded.
Right.
The GM, I know that he released a statement saying that he apologized for it, but I don't think there's going to be any sort of issue with that.
Yeah. Now I did hear Jalen Rose talk about it on his podcast with David Jacoby yesterday, and they said that he's not required to sell the team, but they think that the pressure of the fans and maybe even the sponsors would force him eventually to step down.
Right.
And I think the sponsored one is the most important.
Yeah.
Like
and
nothing happened with Peterson, for example, until Radisson dropped out
Right.
because they
Well,
had
then
reinstated him. They
they did.
they deactivated him, then they reactivated him for like a day. Then Radisson pulled out, and then they put him on that exemption list.
Well, Radisson sort of suspended their sponsorship,
Yeah,
but then InBev, who owns Anheuser-Busch,
yeah,
who basically has Budweiser, and McDonald's put pressure on the NFL saying that if you don't sort of clean up how you're dealing with these things, I guess these incidents, and then then they're gonna have to reevaluate their contract
yeah,
relationship. And what's interesting is InBev has an out clause where they're allowed to end their relationship, their sponsorship, with no adverse economic
I see.
fallout. If, and I remember that reading this saying that if the NFL comes across some sort of league-wide scandal that really tarnishes the image, and this is obviously one that you could argue that would fit that criteria.
Absolutely.
And now that sponsorship money is being affected, you know, Goodell is sort of reversing course.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, as long as the owners can protect the bottom line,
Yep.
then you're fine.
Yeah.
Then they'll take each of these as it comes. But if you attack the NFL's bottom line, that's really when you awaken us. I feel like the beast,
Yeah.
and
For
that's
sure.
why Roger Goodell, in his latest press conference, said he's not going to retire. He did some things inappropriately, but I'm not going to retire. And the owners are still very much happy with him.
So to be honest, I haven't actually seen that interview yet. I've known that it's existed. I just haven't gone out and watched it yet.
Yeah, it was. I think it was on middle of the week last week.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. And the only reason why I saw it was I had DVR'd Sound FX for the week 2 of the NFL.
Yeah.
But there was a breaking news and I didn't get to see it, so I had to see that instead. Yeah, I think this sort of brings us to the end of the first topic.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're 30 minutes in, only one topic deep.
That's fine. I think the next bit we wanted to talk about was the anti-vaccination.
Ah, yes. I forgot about this one.
Sort of reading the latest article about the school district
Yep.
in the Los Angeles area.
Yep.
I think it's in the Valley. I'm not exactly sure,
I think it is.
but it's somewhere where there's a high percentage of, I guess, not counterculture, but just not mainstream culture.
Yeah, I don't know what you want to call it, right?
Yeah, I guess that they're more of a, I guess, I don't know what the term is, but more natural medicine,
Yeah.
where they're not vaccinating their young kids, and they're also experiencing a huge whooping cough epidemic out there.
Yeah.
Now, I think most people find it interesting though that this anti-vaccination thing is still pretty ongoing. You would think that wow, you would think that with all the research that we've done,
Yep.
I guess accepted research, that wouldn't be the case. But what was that one doctor's name that created that study?
I don't know, and what I do know about him is that a lot of the results in that study, I don't want to say they were fabricated, but they weren't. I don't think the results were obtained properly.
Andrew Wakefield.
Andrew Wakefield, there you go. Yeah, I'm looking at the article right now.
Yeah, study was released in 1998. Many parents have been convinced the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine could lead to autism.
Yes, that's exactly why.
And then let's see, this Reddit article today I learned the doctor who said that the MMR vaccine caused autism. Andrew Wakefield has paid £400,000 to do so by a group of lawyers looking to sue the manufacturers. And they had this tested. They took like millions of kids to redo sort of what this one guy said.
Yeah.
And it was decades of just no more mumps, no more measles. And then all of a sudden, one guy, Andrew Wakefield, and then people like Jenny McCarthy get on
Exactly.
it. And it's crazy, sort of, the responsibility.
One person was able to change so much.
Right. But you have to be. I mean, what are we looking at here? They're saying that the diphtheria vaccination that was
Yep.
created in the 20s fought like 14 diseases. I'll
Yep.
read them off to you: pneumonia, mumps, the flu, chickenpox, measles, meningitis, hepatitis A and B, whooping cough, rotavirus, smallpox, rubella, and mumps.
Yep.
We beat smallpox in America.
Yeah.
We beat it. Why is it coming back? Smallpox is such a crazy, debilitating disease.
Right.
Physically scarring, horrendous to your system, and yet people think that the vaccination leads to autism. Now, I understand from a parental standpoint the amount of sort of needles and injections, sort of the frequency at such a young age can be
Right.
scary. because you sent me that article, right? The
Right.
paper
Yeah.
saying that children's immunology is not as strong, or immune system rather is not as strong as
As adults.
as adults.
Right. So even if we're not vaccinated for something, if we're exposed to some particular disease,
Hmm.
adults are better suited to deal with it because we've seen a lot of nasty things and some nasty things that may be similar
Yeah.
evolutionarily to something we've seen in the past. An interesting thing, I'm looking at Andrew Wakefield's Wikipedia page. It does say that his report was, the paper was a fraudulent paper, a 1998 fraudulent research paper, which is in support of the now discredited claim that there's a link between the administration of measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine and the appearance of autism and bowel disease. And that's
Right.
the thing I think is interesting, that despite the fact that it's discredited at this point, there's still this huge movement of people not vaccinating their children. And it seems to be localized in the Los Angeles, or at least the California region. I don't hear anything about that here on the East Coast. I don't know about
It's
you. I mean,
well, there was a case in New York City,
okay.
where I think in New York State you can turn down vaccinations if you cite religious reasons.
Okay. Which I think
How
is ridiculous.
right? Because you're putting the local population at risk.
Mm-hmm.
However,
As well as
that
an innocent child. Like the
oh
child has no say in that.
right, um, but that the judge ruled that if you don't vaccinate your child, you're not allowed to bring him to school,
Yeah, okay.
which is smart
It is.
because all of like with whooping cough, all it takes is one bit.
Right.
All it takes is one, and then it's over.
And even if you're vaccinated against it, as soon as there's an outbreak, these viruses are very good at mutating.
Yeah,
And so they're able to build up a tolerance and mutate so that way, if you expose a kid to some variant that they're not vaccinated against, it can actually get them sick. And so that's why it's so dangerous, because even if you're vaccinated against it, you're still not completely protected. And that's what that article was talking about, the first one that I sent you.
yeah. I think vaccinations is something that I would definitely. I'm following the rules on this one.
Yeah.
You got to,
Yeah.
and the frequency is okay. If I think if you have to knock out these 14 diseases that could kill a child so
Right.
young, I think you would have to you'd have to, I guess, quote unquote, take the risk,
Yeah.
because if they're saying that the vaccination schedule and protocol right now causes autism, quote unquote, in 110 children.
Mm-hmm.
I would take that over these diseases.
So even if you believe that number, at least.
Let's just say that number is true.
Right. Because we don't know how autism.
We'll make it 1 in 100.
Okay.
We'll up the percentage
Right.
to 1%.
I think what it's going to take to get people to change their ways, as unfortunate as this will be, there has to be some type of outbreak or like a major case, like maybe say some famous person's kid is dying because they weren't vaccinated, and
Yeah.
it was some disease that if they were given the vaccine, they would be fine.
Yeah, but that's crazy though.
Right. It's unfortunate.
There needs to be somebody needs to take the lead on this, and really, I see that's crazy because you would have to invest so much money
Mm-hmm.
in making this like a widespread message.
Right.
Like Andrew Wakefield's now discredited article, it should not be used in any sort of defense against vaccination.
Right.
And people Jenny McCarthy isn't even answering questions on the subject anymore.
No, I didn't know that.
They just don't talk about it. But you were one of the most outspoken critics in this matter.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to, in my mind, just walk away from this.
Right.
If anything, you're leading to some of these to the thoughts and to sort of the causing, these epidemics,
Right.
because you're such a public figure that a lot of people respect, which is crazy, because we all know where she came from.
Yeah. Wow, that was a huge hit.
Yeah. It's crazy that you're allowed to just walk away from something like this.
Yeah.
because you're espousing a fake view. Well, I guess it's not a fake view; it's your point of view, but it's based on flawed research.
Right. I don't
Don't
want to
you? Do
call
you
it.
think? What are your thoughts on this? Do you think that there should be some sort of not, I guess not penalty, but some sort of legal action against her?
Maybe not. I don't know if necessarily against her. Maybe an easy way to do it, because I don't know how you'd mount a case like that and target her. But maybe something that would have to be done would be to go for the parents that aren't vaccinating their kids. Because
Right.
if their kids are dying to any of these diseases, the fault lies with the parents. And if the parents want to say, well, the fact that they died now is better than them living with autism for the rest of their life, I don't see the argument in that.
Right, because that's what you just said right there. Is there any sort of link to, and this is going to be a bit of a stretch, but abortion? So the abortion question,
Yeah,
uh,
right.
of just rather ending a child's life now than, but like, I'm taking the abortion question in sort of,
No, I think I
you're,
understand what you're saying.
you're either choosing to end the child's life during the, I guess, up until the second trimester,
Right.
or if you're going to bring a child to this world with some debilitating disease.
Yeah, it's a very interesting ethical question that we get asked a lot. Like one of my professors that I've had, it's like that. So you're pregnant or your wife is pregnant, and you know that child is going to be born and they're going to have some crazy disease. Do you abort it? Is that morally correct, acceptable?
Mm-hmm.
I hate those questions because it's very difficult to give like an. I don't know if there's ever an easy, just cut and dry yes or
Mm-hmm.
no answer. I think whatever decision you make, you're gonna have to live with the consequences of it, and you might regret it in some ways. But I think in that situation, I probably would, or at least suggest it, or at least consider it.
That's a very fair view
It's very tough
because
to give like a definitive answer, right?
and I think it's sort of these questions will never grant you a definitive answer.
All right.
It's something where you would, because then the choice is you would be bringing a child. It's like damned if you do, damned if you don't,
Right.
because you're bringing a child in to suffer some debilitating disease, and then you have to suffer through that as well.
Yeah.
And not so much. I'm not talking. I guess I'm putting the parents and the family suffering behind the child suffering,
Right.
because it's not an easy life that they had to live,
Right.
and it's just, is it fair to any party involved? But this question starts to this question brings on more questions, right?
Yeah.
Because then a natural follow up question for me is, at what point do we consider a child in the womb a human being, which is really what the legal system is trying to figure out as well. Now, is it at inception, or is it, what was it, up until the end of the second trimester? Is that is that what they're doing?
I think so.
Yeah, I
It's an
mean it's
impossible question to answer, isn't it?
right, because this is, you bring religion into this,
Yeah, religion and
sort of the standard view that a baby is born the moment it's conceived.
right.
But when you look at conception under a microscope, it's hard to justify that in my eyes.
Right. So then, one point that I would argue is, at up until a certain point, that child won't know any pain.
But we don't know that, though, do
I
we?
guess you won't know it. You're right.
I mean, you're also putting the parents. I mean, the parents. There's emotional trauma any way you look at it,
Yeah.
and I don't know if there's a less or more trauma-esque route to go down.
Right.
So I think I would follow sort of your view. My parents have posed this question to me all the time, and they're much more definitive on they would end the child's life.
Yeah.
I guess for you're in my case. Let's just hope it never comes down to that sort of scenario.
Yeah. Hope so.
But but the world's just too crazy for any of that stuff to really be planned for.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I guess that's all I have on this.
Yeah, it's a very sensitive and tough topic to talk about, isn't it?
Yeah, it's. I mean, because I don't consider myself a religious person
Right.
by any accounts. I think sort of my views in that realm are just sort of like do unto others,
Yeah.
and there's sort of standard rules where you respect your elders and
Mm-hmm.
all that jazz. But I don't really. There's not a religion that I subscribe to.
Yeah.
So I would like to think that my judgment isn't clouded in that sort of
Yeah.
through that filter, but I just have never been in a situation like that where I have had to make a call.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what about you? How does your sort of religion treat stuff like this?
So yeah, I'm a little bit more religious, although I like to think myself as being a lot more open-minded, which is why I kind of have the viewpoint that I do, that I would at least consider it. I think my religion would just say no, it's not acceptable.
Okay.
But
What's the potential fallout for a decision like that?
it would not be right in God's mind,
Okay.
eyes at least. Is it mind, eyes? Because you're ending a life.
Right, and that's not your life to end.
It's not your life to end, right?
Okay.
Killing. You like to say this in any theoretical way, because there are clearly how many people that declare themselves as being Muslims that are killing people outside right now.
Right.
But killing is never acceptable.
No, that's an interesting topic.
Yeah, right.
As as a Muslim, your thoughts on how the Muslim community as a whole right now
Mm-hmm.
is reacting to the ISIS situation.
I guess I haven't seen too much of the entire community.
Okay.
I see some people post, like on Reddit, for example, and maybe it's partially because some of the people that are on Reddit are more open-minded, like myself.
Mm-hmm.
But it appears that a lot of people are kind of outraged by it. I don't like killing of innocent people. I'm not even a fan of war.
Okay.
So the entire, like, you hear about ISIS going out and killing Christians, people for being a Christian, but then you also hear about like I think Shiites are getting killed too, which is why Iran is against ISIS, because they're Sunni, I believe, right? Or are they Kurds?
Uh, I think they're more. Well, I think ISIS is more Sunni,
Okay.
but I'm not exactly sure.
Now I'm gonna have to Wikipedia this one,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Let me
But
know what you find.
I'm not gonna find it immediately right now. I'll try to talk while I look up.
Yeah. It's crazy though that so many senior Islamic leaders are coming out saying, condemning it, ISIS,
Mm-hmm.
saying that they have sort of destroyed what the Quran's message is,
Right.
dirtied it for their own
For their own cause,
for
right?
their own cause. Now, I guess what's crazy about Islam is just the amount of violence that the religion has been racked with for centuries.
Right. Yes.
Sort
It's
of
Sunni,
this.
by the way.
It's Sunni, yeah.
Yes.
The Sunni Shiite split
Mm-hmm.
happened immediately after the death of Muhammad,
Right.
and it's sort of do we go with the uncle or the father-in-law or the son-in-law?
I believe it was the father-in-law.
It was an in-law. It
Yeah.
was an in-law, and it's crazy that I guess it's understandable that some people would think like Islam does stand for violence when they're sort of the center of it has interact with so much of it.
Yeah.
But that's a different. You can't. You don't condone that violence either.
Right.
But in my eyes, that's a different kind of violence.
Yeah. Yes.
I can't group the Sunni Shiite split with what ISIS is doing right now.
No.
Because ISIS sees itself as, well, I guess that's interesting because in this case, they are doing the same thing, where ISIS sees itself and its interpretation of
Mm-hmm.
Islam as the one true interpretation,
Right.
and they're trying to spread it again through the most sensitive places in the world, places that have been racked with
Violence,
war,
turmoil,
turmoil for the longest time.
corrupt governments. I
Yeah.
mean, that's an easy way to get it, right?
Oh,
If
absolutely.
you
I mean,
go into
that's how.
countries with corrupt governments,
Yeah.
you're the rebels,
Right.
and the people are on your side. Maybe they don't believe with your maybe they don't agree with your cause, but they hate their government enough that they'll ride with you.
Right. It's. I mean, ISIS is paying their fighters 5 times more than the average wage that you can find in the region.
Yeah.
And a lot of fighters saying we don't really necessarily believe in what they're doing, but if I can feed my family for the first time in months,
Mm-hmm.
that's something that you can't pass up if you're trying to keep your family alive.
Right.
Now, what's interesting about that is there's still water and food lines everywhere,
Right.
even in ISIS-controlled areas. It's just interesting that you let ISIS go. It's like a wound that you let fester for one day too long,
Mm-hmm.
and then they rob that bank holding,
Yep.
and they're overnight the richest quote unquote terrorist organization
Yeah.
in the world. And now that they've got a refinery that they control and everything, they're much more to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how hardline they are, because even Al Qaeda has come out against them.
Yeah.
Even most recently, they kidnapped that British
Mm-hmm.
national who was out there on his own dime, on his own time, helping refugees in the region. And Al Qaeda has come to his defense,
Yeah.
saying you can't behead this man because he's a friend of Islam.
Right.
It's like how it's crazy Al Qaeda's stand now, because Al Qaeda is also not willing to work with the Boko Haram or Haram,
Yeah.
saying that they're too crazy. I think that how do you even get rid of ISIS,
See, that's a
right?
good question.
Because wouldn't getting rid of trying I guess the act of getting rid of ISIS make it even stronger?
Yeah, because that's what I think would happen with Al Qaeda, right?
Do you think that it would be more sort of agreeable to the region and like more effective of a solution if you didn't have direct Western help? You had Western funding sort of the technology and the weapons available, but you let countries like Saudi Arabia or Iran
Let
do
them
it.
hash it out.
Yeah,
Oh, damn, that was a big hit.
yeah. But Sanders fell right underneath it, so he should be okay.
I thought he got hurt too.
Yeah.
Um, isn't that kind of what we ran into the problems with in like the 70s though?
Well,
And like in the
so
Soviet Union?
yeah, I mean, that's the Charlie Wilson's War, right? That's the whole story with that.
Yeah.
The idea, though, was after we gave them so much money to fight uh, the Soviet Union, and we were effective. However, when it came time to rebuild, no money was given. So you gave them enough money to fight,
Right.
but you didn't help them rebuild. And, memory is a fickle creature. It's
Yeah.
like, what have you done for me lately? Right?
Yeah.
You gave me all of this all these tools to help fight out one invader, but when we needed you to help create infrastructure, you were nowhere to be seen.
Right.
And then in that sort of power vacuum, it's easy for anyone to twist the truth.
Mm-hmm.
You know. But I understand what you're saying, and it's you never really want to put proprietary, like American military hardware in the hands of anyone but your own soldiers.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking, is that a more useful way of helping uh, unify the region more by getting rid of a problem that plagues everyone?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know a good solution. I wish there was something like I don't think going like putting soldiers on the ground over there is a good idea.
You don't think so?
I don't think so.
Why don't you think so?
I don't think. I can't imagine many Americans thinking that this is our war to fight.
Mm-hmm.
This is that it would be right, or there's any reason for us to go put Americans at their lives at risk
Yeah, you
to go
think
out there
America's been fighting since 2001.
right, and you go out there to protect your own interests, and you put your soldiers on the ground, and things go awry, like Vietnam or whatever.
Yeah,
You just start to wonder what you're fighting for.
that's fair. That can be said about a lot of conflicts,
Yeah, it can be.
like sort of America, their relationship with Japan,
Hmm.
and how they're allowing Japan is basically not redoing, but sort of reanalyzing or reestablishing their post World War II constitution,
Yeah.
where you can create more than just a personal defense force. They're buying their first submarine for the first time,
Hmm.
and I think America is allowing that to happen. Not so much out of forgetting the horrors of World War II,
Right.
but just so much that they need an ally in the region to stand up to China.
Yeah.
China's getting bigger and bigger, and they're quickly becoming, they're creating a space in the question of who's the
Wow,
most dominant
touchdown.
question. Yeah. Well, you get that a second before I do. Um, but
Sorry, I threw you off your train of thought.
yeah, it's interesting because China is now. The question is, who's the most powerful country in the world?
Yeah.
China, Russia, or the U.S. Right?
Right.
U.S. for the longest time has sort of dominated the question
Hmm.
of who is doing what in the world, and I feel like we're getting some of that from Putin right now.
Yeah.
Putin knows you're not going to be able to do anything, and he's just going to create policy in the region.
Right.
And I think China's going to start doing the same
Hmm.
because you've got Korea, Taiwan, Vietnam, Malaysia, Singapore, all these people around you that can't. Uh, did his feet get it?
Yep. His feet were
Wow.
in. That's it.
Wow. Do I get
Amazing.
points for that? Oh, I should get points for that.
It's turning into a really good game.
Yeah.
I guess it's been a really good game, not turning into.
Yeah. I hope I get points for that. Um, so, so it's just interesting, I guess, that you shouldn't really. I guess that the American public is right in the sense of like we're wary of war. We don't want to put our men and women
Yeah.
in harm's way anymore.
Hmm.
You know,
Like, is it fair? Is it fair to put people's lives at risk just to protect America's interests?
right,
Not really protect. What, like
America.
if we're getting invaded, that's a completely different thing. But to protect our interests for like say 50 years down the road, to ensure that we're still like the in quotes at least the strongest the country.
Yeah. I well, what's interesting is well, you're right because after 9/11 we were attacked,
Hmm.
and so everyone was ready to go to war,
Right.
and I can understand that sentiment,
Yep.
but I guess it's sort of like that that's not premature, but just the strike beforehand, right? The
Yeah.
sort of like the premeditated strike policy, where the best defense is a good offense,
Hmm.
and then you attack other people.
Yeah.
So I guess I can understand why they're allowing certain countries to do it. It's just does that start to create more instability in different regions where it goes against the very thing or creates the very thing that we were trying to fight.
Right.
You know?
I think that's a big thing concerning about the stability of the region.
Yeah.
And I guess that goes into what you said earlier, like the rebuilding process.
Right. Now, do you ever think you could go to war?
I don't think so.
Uh,
It depends. It depends on the situation. I think we talked about this before, right?
I think so, but let's talk about it again.
Yeah. Like say in this particular situation, I wouldn't go.
No.
I mean, maybe maybe it would be different if I was 18.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but you would have to. I'm 25 years old. You have to pull me out of grad school. I'm already quite well established where I am, and moving into my potential future career, it would require a lot to get me to feel motivated enough to leave that and go to war.
What
And
would
such
what?
a situation might be that we get invaded. Maybe if we get attacked, or maybe a better parallel, maybe a less extreme example would be, say one of my relatives, family members, whatever, is out in another country, gets kidnapped, and all of a sudden they get beheaded on YouTube.
Yeah,
Maybe that would be a situation where I just, you want revenge so bad, you want to do something about it. It's hard for me to say that would be enough to push me over the edge,
yeah,
but I feel like the single thing that could get me right now to go is if all of a sudden all of our ways of life was threatened so much that it didn't matter. Like if I didn't go to war, like if I didn't go fight too, I felt like I wasn't doing enough.
yeah. It's sort of like that World War II saying, right? It's like if America's good enough to live in, it's good enough to fight for.
Right.
But then again, that was also sort of created off an attack,
Yeah.
and so it's it's interesting. I don't know if America's ever going to find itself in another situation where you get attacked in that way. But then again, 9/11 happened, right?
Yeah. Right.
Uh, I don't. I think the days of sort of like all out like tanks down Main Street are gone. But like if let's just say ISIS gets away or is able to carry out a successful attack, then what happens? Do you think American sentiment will change?
Yes.
Then you think like because right now Obama has no political capital to do anything.
Right.
It's been spent just sort of fighting the attrition battle internally. Um, I guess you're right. I guess I can totally see the sentiment changing if ISIS was able to kind of get something on American soil, though.
So I have a question about that. Why would ISIS ever do something like that?
Well,
They
I
can't
mean,
believe that they could win a
ISIS
war
almost
against.
got away with that attack in Australia. Did you read about
Right.
that?
Yeah.
Where they tried to publicly, they were just going to snatch a random person to behead them in public.
I wonder why they would ever do that.
I think it's
the
just
the world already hates you enough, but now you're giving people reason to go over there and bring the fight to you.
I guess you're creating fear and instability in those places where you think where the idea would be that they could strike you anywhere at any time.
Right. I don't know. I think it's a new move.
Why does Seattle only have one person on the field?
They gotta just be off camera, right?
I don't see anybody.
I have a tube TV, and so it's not widescreen. I can't see anything further to the left.
But all you see is Jackson, right?
Yeah, I just see.
Yeah, no,
Jackson's
that's what I
shoulder.
see too. There's nobody else. There's nobody else.
I refuse to believe that.
Where's everybody else? Like half the Broncos are on TV right now. There's nobody there.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
There's
There's
absolutely-
no one else there.
Is that Tavares Jackson?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's the
why
most
him?
action he's seen in what, a year?
They must just figure. They must be working a game plan. They told him to just listen to the rules and come back.
Just listen to the rules and don't
Just-
say anything.
We know the rules. Just go over there and then come back.
Yeah. I think we got time for one more.
Yeah.
I guess
an
more
hour
of
and
a-
3 minutes in.
All right. Okay, so the last two were a little bit shorter. All right, I got a final one, a little bit more fun,
A little
Well, let's-
lighthearted.
a little bit lighthearted. When
Okay.
was the sort of like the foot and mouth moment? Sort of when was the last time you said something where you really felt like the end result of whatever you said, you really found your foot caught in your mouth? Now I can tell you sort of what brought about this this thought.
Okay.
It was recently a friend of mine's birthday, and we went to this Mexican restaurant. And a girl who showed up there was like I guess she was within the friend circle,
Yeah.
on my more peripheral circle, but she got engaged.
Okay.
And it was, obviously we're all very happy for her. But there was a moment when I was in junior year at NYU, and we were all studying abroad
Right.
in Italy, and we were taking this course, I guess like business law, and we had to do like these mock trial debates.
Right.
And then it was like our turn versus, and she was in the other group, and I felt deep in my gut that she had broken the rules, that she had cross-examined at an inappropriate time, and not only that, but she had presented additional evidence in closing arguments.
Okay.
All things that you're not allowed to do.
Yeah.
The rules were set forth, and
She must have been like Tavares Jackson. She was out on center field and they were talking the rules.
right, and she
She
wasn't
wasn't
listening.
paying attention.
She wasn't paying attention,
No.
and we hypothetically, I think we lost the debate.
Okay.
But I think that we had no business losing the debate. I think we actually made some splendid points, and I think we should have won it.
Okay.
I think it was the next day. I was on the bus with a fellow sort of team member of mine, and I was just sort of being really loud about how much sort of nonsense had gone on.
Yeah.
And then he's standing there chuckling, and I go, "This is not funny. This is serious. What I'm talking about. You know, you gotta wipe that grin off your face."
Okay.
And then I'm just telling him, like, you know, she did this, this, and this wrong, and I don't really think that, you know, I don't think she was playing by the rules. And then he goes, "You know, she's behind you, right?" And I go, and the guy, you know, he was always known for kind of playing jokes. So I was like, "Shut your mouth. No way she's behind me. I've been here the entire time. You know, there's no one else on this bus." And so I kept like kind of just blowing up her spot.
Yeah.
They kept going, getting meaner and meaner, and he keeps laughing, and he goes, you know, she is behind you. And I go, how many times can you play the same joke?
Oh man.
I turn around and she's looking at me with her two friends on the bus, and she is staring at me, and she just goes, "Sandy, you're an asshole." And I turned around and I just started laughing because what else am I supposed to do in that situation? I'm not gonna take it back.
Yeah.
I meant what I said, and I said what I meant. But it was just one of those situations where, you know, I got caught with my foot, you know, in my mouth. And you know, it wasn't too big of an issue. But it was just one of those funny moments where, you know, you're talking about somebody, you're talking down about somebody.
You're talking about someone behind their back, and it turns out she's right behind you.
She's right behind my back.
Yeah.
What about you?
I have no idea.
You got nothing?
I feel like I got nothing, or I probably was in a situation like this, and I've just blocked it out of my brain.
What
Like,
about
I just don't want to recall.
what's
these
the most
memories.
recent sort of embarrassing moment you've gone through?
I think it's always really embarrassing when I'm talking about my research work with people,
Why?
and they might ask me a question about something that might be very trivial, and it's really embarrassing for me not to be able to answer it, because what they'll ask me is something like a biological related question. My background's in computer science, and I feel like there are a lot of things that I've missed on the biological end. Like, I'm very well versed in what I'm working on, what I'm researching, but there are things here and there on the biological side, like the gen bio, microbio, molecular bio, that I've never studied or seen or come across in grad school. And people might ask me questions about that, and it's like you almost feel like they're gonna look down on you so hard if you just come out looking like an idiot and you're like,
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Do you feel though that it's a situation where you can't possibly know everything, or do you think these are things that you should know, that you just get caught up in the moment where you're trying to be as informative as possible, but at the same time not speak like over somebody's head?
Sorry, I just got a text. Came with my computer. I think with those, I guess it's not something that I necessarily should feel ashamed about, because with this particular field, it's very interdisciplinary. So, like I said, I have the computer science background, and there's no shame in not fully understanding the biological side of things. My advisor completely knew that when I joined the group and when I was put on the projects that I'm working on. So it's not like he expects me to have that, and I shouldn't expect myself to have that. But it's a little hard to explain to people at times,
Yeah.
especially when you're talking to like biologists about the project that's 100% biology. Like, I'll use the computers to analyze the data, and then I'll come up with my own interpretations for the data and try to analyze it myself. And I've read a lot of papers and done a lot of this and that. My experience has helped me figure out how to analyze that stuff, but it's
Yeah.
very specialized. there's nothing. I don't have to go back onto like I don't have to worry about like the chemistry of like the amino acids, the nucleotides, the DNA, the RNA. There are some things that would definitely help because I might have a better understanding of why something might be. Like if there's just something so strange and I just can't seem to figure out why it would fit, it might be that I just don't have that background that would help
Gotcha.
me figure it out. And I
Gotcha.
don't know if it, I don't know, like I would love to learn it. I just don't know if it's possible for me to do it like, all in grad school. And there's always going to be something I'm not going to know, right?
Yeah. Um, okay. Um, I guess to close it out, you and I have been playing video games for a number of years together,
Yep.
and that's sort of how we got close. I want to get your views on sort of what your thoughts on Destiny are.
Right.
Sort of the largest IP in a while,
Yep.
right? I think before this was Watch Dogs,
Yeah, Watch
um,
Dogs is pretty big. And then
Watch
before that was what?
Titanfall.
Ah, yeah, Titanfall. What,
Yeah,
all with 3 in 1 year?
3 in 1 year. Titanfall was new. That was a new IP.
Mm-hmm.
Titanfall was what, Activision?
No, EA.
Oh,
It was
EA.
Respawn and EA because Respawn was originally Infinity Ward. They did Call of
Yeah.
Duty. They
Right.
worked at Activision. They got screwed out of their bonuses or whatever,
Right. Right. Right.
and then they all got fired.
So that was Titanfall,
Yep.
and then Watch Dogs was Ubisoft,
Yep.
and that was so Titanfall came out to some pretty fun, pretty good reviews, I'd say,
Yeah.
like mid eights.
Yeah. I
I
think
think
so.
Ubisoft's Watch Dogs came out to a little bit lower,
Yeah.
right?
People were
Like
very
low
disappointed with
eights.
that game.
Were they very disappointed?
I think so. I think a lot of people were felt deceived because of the E3
Oh, that's right.
2012 footage. And
Right.
then they did a comparison, like this, you could see the side by side comparison from the EA or the E3 footage and the footage on a PC running on the game on max settings.
But don't you think that's sort of because I'll be the first to to let you know that I also fell into that trap
Mm-hmm.
of thinking that that was a game that we were going to get. But shouldn't we have all known better that that was running on a PC?
But the problem is it wasn't even just running on a PC. I mean, we all knew. Supposedly it was a PC scaled down to like a PS4 or Xbox One. Um, I just said it and it turned on.
There you go. I thought, yeah, I saw
So
that.
what the hell is that? Uh, Scaled down to their hardware. But but I think people feel deceived because you play it on a PC and it doesn't look that good either.
Right, right,
But
right.
I think the problem is that a lot of the settings actually existed in the game and they were pulled out, so people were able to like decompile the code or whatever it was and see that these settings actually exist and they're disabled by default and you can't turn them back on. But if you tweak the settings that that the user should never be able to see, but if you can tweak these settings, they come back on. You can make the game look like it did in E3. But
Right,
the problem with that is that it was very unstable. It causes like screen tearing, maybe crashes, whatever the problems would be.
right. And then that brings us to
To
Destiny,
Destiny, right?
the new sort of Bungie IP
Mm-hmm.
post Halo, because they've given Halo up the 343 Guilty Spark, right?
Yep.
Um,
And now you got
so,
another Activision game.
yep. Now, Destiny didn't come with any sort of pre-launch review title copies
Right.
because they didn't want to turn on the servers.
Yeah. Now that's actually an interesting question. Before we even talk about that, because the reviews, do you think that they didn't turn the servers on for the reviewers because they knew the game wasn't what they promised it to be?
That's a good question.
I was
Uh,
talking to Muhammad. He reviews movies, my brother, and he said that when they do these movie reviews, they won't have early screenings for critics if they know the movie's gonna be bad. So the newest Transformers movie, he
uh-huh.
said that the critics weren't able to see the movie until maybe like the day before,
Okay.
and so the reason for that is they knew the movie would get bad reviews. So you just let the critics review it on release date, and you still get all the the millions of people that want to see it on that first day, especially the people that would be swayed because of the reviews. So since the reviews weren't there, they'll just go see it anyway.
Now,
Like
does Muhammad get that sort of privilege?
to see the
Um,
movies early.
yeah.
Yeah.
How did he do that?
He would make, I guess, how did he get in contact with the people? I think he was making like little reviews, little YouTube videos and stuff. And I think there was a website called filmyap.com.
Okay.
Film Yap. And I think he emailed the head editor of the site and said he was interested in writing some for him. And I think the guy asked if he would make like a short 2-minute video about a review for some movie. And so Muhammad did it. The guy loved the review. And so now he's been doing some reviews with them. And
Okay.
so now he's gotten access to movies early. So he
Okay.
gets to review them.
I think that could be a possibility.
Yeah.
That they didn't think it was good then. Um, it's it sure does. It sure doesn't feel like like the way GTA 5 came out.
Yeah.
How now we all knew that the online multiplayer bit has been quite the scandal.
Yeah.
But when that game launched, we
Still
all
waiting for his
knew.
heist, man.
I mean, we're never gonna get the
A
heist.
year later. they're
A
still
year
not
later,
there.
we're not gonna get it. But you know, we that game came out to a 10.
Yeah.
You know, there was widespread critical acclaim. There just hasn't been that for Bungie's game.
Right.
Now, do you also think that's because it's sort of the first game of its kind?
Touchdown.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the reason why. I feel like part of the reason is I understand why the reviews are as low as they are. So IGN gave it a 7.8, right?
Okay. I haven't seen the review.
Okay. GameSpot gave it a 6.
Wow.
I think Polygon gave it an 8. It's averaging like a 75, something in that range.
On Metacritic, right?
Yeah.
But they're reviewing it without, and Bungie's also come out and said that the game gets richer beyond level 20, the level
Right.
cap.
Right. But here's my problem with after level 20 because I'm 26 now.
Yeah, and I'm 25
game-
and 3/4.
The
or
game
10%.
is a little more interesting because it's really fun to earn some of that better loot, to play a mission and all of a sudden get that legendary weapon or the legendary gear. It's like you feel rewarded for doing that, but it's so random and you have to grind so much for
Right.
that. I wouldn't say it's really richer because you're just doing the same things over and over and over and over again that you've done the entire game up until that point.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I really don't like about the game. Another thing, but I mean that's how it goes with MMOs, right? With these RPGs, there's always the grinding element.
There is always that grinding element that's inherent to the game style.
Right.
Now, I think that's, but, talking to Bird, Justin, who we play with, his grind in World of Warcraft is a little bit different,
right.
where there's a more direct correlation between the amount of effort you put in and and what you get out of it.
Right. Because I would argue that I've played less than he's played, but I'm further along than he is level wise.
Based on the luck of the draw.
Just the luck of the draw. I seem to have gotten really lucky with my loot.
Yeah. I mean, and this is like the second full weekend that we've had
Yeah.
where we've been playing rather substantially.
Yeah.
Um,
We'll play again as soon as we finish this.
yeah. Now, my question is, do you is this what you thought it was going to be?
So let's say before the beta, right?
Uh-huh.
I'll say what they said at E3. At E3, I think also in 2012 when you saw Watch Dogs. Maybe it was last year, I don't know, but they demoed the game. And it was the very first mission. You just got to Earth, you just got revived. And he's like, "Yo, you see the mountains in the distance. If you wanted to go there, you can go there, but for the interest of time, we won't do that." That's a lie. Like, we can't do that. I mean, there are plenty of mountains in the distance, there are plenty of places that you can go, but it's not like
Right.
you can just go wherever you want. On Mars, I can't count the amount of invisible walls and invisible ceilings. Like, they're just nothing but sand dunes on that map. But you'll try to climb one, and all of a sudden you'll just hit like an invisible wall, and you'll get thrown back down the dune.
But couldn't
Because
you? But isn't it fair to say that you can still go wherever you want?
Oh yeah, you can go plenty of places.
So therein lies the nuance, right? You
Yeah.
can go plenty of places. You just can't go
No,
everywhere.
you certainly can't go everywhere. One thing I'm really disappointed about is the lack of destinations. Like when we saw it after the beta,
Right.
apparently during the beta we saw all of Earth. That was it. Like there were 6 story missions, maybe not even that many, maybe like 5, and then the strike, which is the 3-man like bigger story mission, whatever.
Right. And we fought Sevix Prime, right?
Right.
Yeah, you're
That
right. We did see
that
all of Earth.
yeah, we saw all of Earth, and I was confused. I was like, all of Earth is just Russia. Like we
Yeah.
have the entire planet Earth to look at, and the only place we get to visit is Russia.
Now, do we think though that sort of the life of a Destiny will sort of get more and more richer as DLC comes out?
It probably will. I imagine they'll add extra planets. Maybe you can go
Um,
to another place on Earth. Who knows?
yeah. Now, before this game, we sort of had like a no pre-order policy
Yeah.
based on sort of the concept of waiting for the game to come out,
Yeah.
and then not really finding any favorable side to
To
what
pre-order it.
DLC pre-ordering like DLC bonuses.
Yep.
To kind of pick out places where you should pre-order. Has has your decision to pre-order this game? Do you stand by your decision?
Um, I don't know. The reason why I pre-ordered it, I so the reason why I initially pre-ordered it was because of the beta. I wasn't actually going to pre-order it for the beta. I was just going to watch videos of people play the beta until Bale said that he pre-ordered it, and you had to pre-order the game to play the beta. And then I see Amazon offers they have a pre-order bonus where you get 3 beta codes, which is how you got into the beta then, right?
Right. Which I appreciate, by the way.
I also gave one to Abdul, and then I kept one for myself. We played the beta for what was like 2, 3, 4 days, and after like I guess it was like 4 days, and I think after the second day they opened it up to everybody. Now, had I known they would have opened it up to everybody beforehand, I may have just waited for them to open it up.
You think so?
Potentially. And the reason why I went ahead and just pre-ordered it for the digital edition was just because I already committed to the pre-order. I was like,
Right.
whatever. I already did it. I know I want the game. I really like the beta. I don't think if I played the beta I would have pre-ordered it though.
And that's sort of my thought.
Yeah, that may
Where
be the big thing.
I played it and I didn't, and I guess the same thing was with Titanfall,
That's exactly what I was gonna say. I think we did the same thing with Titanfall, right?
where we pre-ordered it and I wasn't really too key on
Yeah,
Titanfall.
you were
No,
not.
I wasn't good at it. That's what I took away from it.
Okay.
I didn't think I was good at all at Titanfall. But once we got the game, I was able to sort of like you and I have found a lot of success in that game.
Yeah.
Um, I think the fact that we're still playing Destiny as often as we are
Mhm.
is a testament to something.
Yeah. For sure.
Knowing that with the newly sort of published raid, uh, that really sort of gives a lot of people new life in the game.
Yeah.
And knowing that it's really rich content, right?
Mhm.
If it takes sort of the best teams in the world 10 hours to beat it,
Yeah.
that says something.
The-
It says both positive and negative things.
Yeah.
Who has 10 hours to complete anything like that?
Although I will say it's a good thing you don't have to do it straight through. I think there are 7 phases of the raid, and there are
Okay.
checkpoints after each one, so you can do like 3 phases. Everybody call it a day and come back like a week, or not a week later. After a week it resets, so you have a week to finish it. You can come
Okay.
back like 2, 3 days later and finish it
Okay.
up, or whatever it would be.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's definitely a testament to something, because we
Yeah.
are playing it as much as we are.
Right.
We all have our complaints with the game. I think
Right.
the story's terrible. I don't like the repetitive elements, but I did expect them at the same time because it is, in a sense, an RPG. I know they don't like to call it that.
But
I
it
think-
is. There's very strong RPG elements to it.
Right.
No, it's definitely not your standard RPG.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's trying to be. I think it knows the limitations of an RPG,
Yeah.
the amount of audiences that'll limit,
Right.
but it's sort of married it with an FPS view, which definitely has the market's attention right now.
Yeah. I think one of the problems that the game has when it came to be reviewed was the comparisons that people wanted to make to Borderlands and Halo. Like everyone wanted to compare the RPG elements to Borderlands, right? The PvE and all that stuff. But then the multiplayer, I think everybody wants to compare to Halo, and maybe even in a way, Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And I don't think the game does. I don't think the game does either of the things that both of those games do so well. as well as either of those games. So I think the PvE is not as good as Borderlands, although I think the art is great. Maybe even the fighting is better, but like the loot drops, the story, it's a million times better in Borderlands.
Borderlands definitely has a very strong sort of presence,
Yeah,
and it definitely has a very strong sort of theme and flavor to it.
yeah,
I think Bungie's Destiny is trying to be too serious,
yeah,
but at the same time not serious enough. Where you read it's sort of like, oh, your Earth's last hope, but then when you read sort of descriptions of your armor or your weapons,
yeah,
it's interesting. It's sort of like that break
yeah,
in the emotional tension, as opposed to Borderlands, which is it's not a serious story
yeah,
and it never takes itself seriously, and it really thrives in that sort of that arena.
right,
But you're right. You can't. It's not a direct comparison.
yeah,
But I think things that are similar are sort of like how they deal with difficulty, where it does require skill up to a certain level.
yeah,
But the main drawback in my eyes is that difficulty just sort of relates to the amount of damage an enemy can take,
yeah,
and just like the bullet
exactly.
sponge nature of it um, is to me not the best
Yeah,
sort
I
of
agree with
aspect
you
of the
there.
game.
As far as the PvP, the Crucible goes, I think that does a lot of things right too. But one of my main annoyances with that is how unbalanced the maps are. So that's why I was saying I think Halo does so well. The maps are very symmetrical, which makes them very boring, but it makes the competitive nature feel fair. So in this game, you'll spawn playing, the domination control. If you spawn on one side of the map, you might be close to your home flag and the B flag, whereas the other team will have to traverse, through the fire and the flames just to get to B. So by the time you get there, the whole other team is standing on the flag just waiting for you,
Yeah.
and you're just flooding in. It's just that's annoying. It's not a big deal, but it's annoying.
No, I totally understand that. I
I think,
think I think Bungie's definitely had a strong history of creating more balanced maps,
yeah,
and it's just a little tragic to see sort of some of the maps here fall into the standard uh, pitfalls of a FPS map, first
yeah,
person shooter map, where you still have the same basic three lane strategy,
yeah, yeah,
and all that jazz. You would think uh, that after all this time there would be more and more innovation, and I think we're trying to see that with like Titanfall.
yeah.
Titanfall was like
They
sort
had
of a
great
great.
maps.
It had great maps, but not only that, it brought player locomotion into effect more,
Yeah,
where you're not tied to the ground, and you can blaze your own trail to a point.
yeah,
So it always like you had to have your head on a swivel, where you just it kind of took standard sort of FPS gaming a step further.
yeah,
And Bungie's, Destiny sort of has that to an extent with the double jump and sort of the blink capability, but it's not it's it's not as much of a step forward as I would have liked.
right.
Now I'm hoping that Ubisoft's Division is.
You're all about the Division.
I'm all about the Division. I'm all in on the Division.
Just because the M14's in the game. That's the only reason why you're all in on the Division.
I mean, anytime Anastasia shows herself, my interest is piqued. But
Yeah.
it's one of those things where this one's going to be also an MMO, but it's a third-person shooter. Now that's more Gears of War style.
Yep.
Now I find that a very, very interesting design decision.
Cover and shoot.
Cover shooters, because we know how broken cover shooters can be.
Right.
Knowing that you have to dedicate a button to not only take cover, but also release from cover
Yeah.
and do other things. So I find that it's just not. I mean, it's nice to see your player model,
Yeah.
and I know that the Frostbite engine is really powerful.
Yeah.
Snowdrop. I'm sorry, Snowdrop
So
engine.
draft start, yeah.
It looks beautiful. I think it's sort of if the game looks as good as it's supposed to be, that's true next gen gaming.
And people are concerned about that because it's a Ubisoft game, though. So
Right.
people feel like they were tricking them.
Yeah.
So we'll
This
see
is
how that
also
goes.
not a game I will be getting day one.
I agree with you on that one. Unless there's a beta, you never know.
Unless there's a beta, I would
Then you have to
love.
pre-order for.
Right. I'm definitely gonna want to see gameplay and what people's initial thoughts are on that.
Yeah. So for that game, I'm actually really excited for the PvE, and I don't have any interest in the PvP whatsoever.
Me neither.
And the
I think
reason
that's
is
got
because
a very strong narrative.
I hope it does. It
Well,
seems
exactly.
like it does, right? I thought Destiny would too. Destiny seemed like it had a great narrative beforehand.
But we
I
thought
thought
Watch Dogs did too.
we did too.
But
And
Watch
Watch
Dogs
Dogs,
fell right into the GTA's lap.
it
Run to this person, do this thing. Run to another person, do another thing.
and the problem with that game too is that you hated the protagonist. Like
Right.
he wants to portray himself as being like this very moral character, and then you take him down the street and just start shooting people. He does shoot people. You don't have to kill any innocent people, but you don't actually have to kill all the. I forgot. You don't have to kill all the enemies in that game either.
Right.
You could do the silent takedown, but there was absolutely no benefit to doing it. You got less XP for doing the silent takedowns than just shoot somebody in the head.
Which is a crazy sort of thing to tell players.
Right.
That, you know what, we're actually going to reward you more for being violent.
Right.
When a lot of people were very willing to play that game non-violent.
Right. I was completely all in on that until I found out, I think from you, that just shooting him in the head gave you just as much, or if not more, XP than
It gave
doing
you
the
more
silent
XP.
takedown. Yeah.
Now, what's interesting is sort of all of the marketing around the game was like a man bent on revenge,
Yeah.
killed your niece, you're trying to tug on your emotional heartstrings,
Right.
but then it just falls into your standard sort of shooter that people will mindlessly play.
Yeah. You couldn't relate to him very much.
No, you couldn't, because he was a guy who was willing to do anything,
Right.
and I guess that's also just another moral conundrum of like, at what point does the ends justify the means, right? And I think in this one it doesn't, because your character, through all of the stuff that you have to do, you kill so many people. It's just like the amount of the percentage of people you kill to try and get to the people who framed you and killed your niece is it's astronomical.
Right.
But then, from the onset, you're not a good guy.
Yeah. You're not.
You work for the mafia, right?
Yeah.
Well, you work for you work for
the
some
dude.
criminal
Yeah,
syndicate.
some criminal dude. And you're just
So-
stealing money from the rich people.
Yeah, it's just interesting that sort of like that dark protagonist has sort of found itself in, because the last time we saw something like this was Max Payne, in my view.
Yeah.
A little bit of Sam Fisher in Splinter Cell Conviction, but
Yeah.
not as much. But I think we've covered enough for one day,
Yeah. Hour and a half.
an hour and a half.
1 hour, 33 minutes,
Yeah.
8 seconds.